Yeah. Let's get started with a word of prayer. Father in heaven, we pray for each member here that's getting ready to either start streaming for the first time, or maybe they've already been streaming for a long time and just joining us today for the camaraderie. Father, we pray that you'll bless the ministry of each church. Father, bless each one of us, I pray. May your spirit go forth in power through technology. We pray in Jesus' name, amen. All right, thanks. So let me get back to my PowerPoint here. So as we get started here, I've actually moved my computer around, and I'm going to be trying to do a demo here. So it'll probably look a little bit disjointed sometimes as I'm stepping around the tripod and stuff like that. But we're going to try to have some fun. Probably a number of you are already doing streaming or have already done streaming. Tam and I have been kind of joking. We should have started this session maybe a year ago, but we did want to actually spend a little time for those maybe that are a little intimidated by the technology, or just wanted to go through it again with us here. So let me start. Let me start with switch my camera. I forgot my PowerPoint is that way. Let me switch my camera to the other camera if I can. All right. So what I'm going to be doing here is, and I hope that you'll be able to hear me okay. I should have set up a better microphone probably. But what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to actually go into YouTube and actually connect and start a live stream. I want you to actually be able to see what the process is if you've never done it before. And probably most of you have already done it, but here it goes. So what I have is I have a camera over here that's aimed at a laptop. So you're not going to see the screen quite clearly. And the reason is because I can't start a second stream in this laptop and show you the screen clearly. So you'll be kind of looking over my shoulder as I go over here to this laptop, and I'm going to try to show you what it takes. What I have done here is this is just a regular laptop, nothing fancy. It's one of our old loaners, old laptops that we took back. It might have been Ed's or one of the former employees' laptops. It is, and I have logged in to YouTube, and I have connected to the internet, but it's just a regular camera, the built-in camera here. Up here in the corner, normally when you go to YouTube for the first time, there will be a login button, and I have already clicked that and logged in. But because I've logged in, I have this camera option right here with a plus on it. And if I wanted to start a live stream right now, all I would do is I would just have to hit this, get the camera to wake, the laptop to wake up here. Hello. I'm gonna have to close it and start it again. Look at that, my laptop's froze. Let me try it again. Okay, so I'm still logged in. So I'm going to create, and I want to go live. You can see that option there. Because I've logged
Mickey, as you're doing this, it's hard to see because you have the screen share on. So what you're doing is in the small little part.
Thank you.
Can you unshare while you're doing that? Thanks. That's better for us.
That's what I meant to do. I am very sorry. Thank you very much for pointing that out. Let me spotlight this one for everyone. Thank you. Great help. So I'm here now. I'm going to go live. So I've hit this little plus, this little camera with the plus, and then I'm going to hit go live. And at this point, it's going to switch and get me into the the screen where I can actually create a video. And it wants me to give it a title, and I'm going to call this Sunday. And I have to choose whether it's going to be public or if it's going to be later. I don't want to do either of those. And then they want to know right down here, they want to know if this is going to have any objectionable material for young children to watch. You know, they will classify it differently if there's going to be, you know, either foul language or something else that might be objectionable. And I'm just going to say it was made for children. And you're going to get a similar screen to this if you were to do this in Facebook. And those are my only options that I care about. And then I hit next. And notice here on the left-hand side of the screen, I had already chosen my webcam. I could have chosen to stream it. If I was like from Zoom, I would have done that. But in this case, I've already chosen my webcam. And at that point, it brings up the screen, shows me a little thumbnail, and I can hit go live. And that's really all it takes in order to go live with this program. I am now live. Now, obviously, I'm using the built-in webcam. Might be a little bit less than ideal. It might be a lot nicer if I had a real webcam to plug in. Something like this. Let's see, it doesn't matter. I guess I'll show it to you this way. A little webcam. That's not focusing on them. I think it's on manual focus so that it stayed in focus over there. That way I could aim it at the screen directly. But you know what would be nicer is if I had maybe another camera that was like a real HDMI camera. And in order to do this, all I would need is my high definition or just my regular HDMI camera, but then I would also need something to convert from HDMI to the laptop. And there's these little adapters that you can get. We'll talk about those in a minute. But that's really all that it takes to actually go live. I'm going to turn around and face this screen here so I can talk. Does anybody have any comments or questions? Have I missed something? All right, so let's go on. Now, if you have the thing set up here, I'm going to plug in my webcam and I'm going to aim it toward the front. I'm going to ask Tammy to go up and be our speaker today.
Mickey, could I just say something about
please,
real quick? As I understand it, when you click Made for Kids, you cannot put end screens on so that they could advertise something else. But when you say, no, it's not made for kids, it doesn't exclude children. But when you say made for kids, the criteria for that is actually more than, it's actually something that's made for them, is the impression I get when I've read through the criteria, not just that it doesn't have offensive language. So that might be something to further think about for people.
Okay.
So I know we put not made for kids on our streams. It doesn't exclude children from watching, even when we have children's story. And I used to struggle with that, but
yeah,
made for kids tends to be more like something that's actually the parents don't, well, this was made specifically for them and they could watch it on their own type things.
We've experienced something similar where whenever we upload our videos unlisted, so it's a little bit easier for us to pass out. And we go through less hoops if we said not listed for kids versus if you said, you know, it's for kids. Yeah.
So you did say it's made for kids?
No, we said it's not, because when you put it for kids, then they're asking you, did kids show up in the stream? And, you know, I think they're more critical that way. We've had friends who their kids went to preach at another church, and as soon as the kids came on, they cut it off because I guess, you know, I don't know what it was, but they're a lot stricter when it comes to having children on screen.
I see. Okay, well, no, that's very, very helpful. Thank you. I've actually not done anything for one of these streams beyond, I don't know why I'm looking at that camera because that's not the camera that I'm looking at. I need to look at this one? Yeah. Okay. to get my a picture in here. But once you have your once you have your basic setup, I'm actually going to stop this and start it again. What I wanted to show you is the real fun of all of this for me. One of the neat things that you can do, and we've just started playing with this, is let me zoom out here.
Do you want me up there?
Yes, please. I'm going to show you the one of the things that you can do. There is this great little streamer from Blackmagic that you can get. And what this thing is a switcher. And what this does is it's going to allow me to connect multiple cameras to my stream. And by having this switcher in here, I'm going to have one camera that's aiming straight at Tammy from here, and have a second camera over here on the side that's aiming at Tammy. And that's actually this wire here. All I do is I simply plug it in. And then this is the camera that's going straight at Tammy over here. Plug it into the second input. And I could even have maybe my PowerPoint connected as a third input to this. And the cool thing about this really for me is this whole setup, $295. This whole setup that would allow you to have multiple inputs and run them all over there. So let me run into a new stream here and see if I can get that to pick up. Oops, I've got to plug this in. And the switcher allows me to connect all of these cameras in as if it was a cheap webcam, just a regular cheap webcam. It just plugs in with the USB port, and I'm able to start that. So let me start a new stream here, and I want to choose a webcam. Let's test. Say no, it's not for children. Okay. And we should be able to choose the other webcam. I can choose my, the camera is going to come in now from this, which it thinks is Blackmagic. And I'm going to use the basic microphone. And in a second here, let me check. I'm live. Why does it not? Didn't pick up my camera. I was trying to show you how easy it is to have it go to the other input. Come on. It's picking up the wrong camera. It's not. It's not letting me choose a Blackmagic camera.
Mickey, could that be because you plugged it in after you started the YouTube? Sometimes I have to go in a certain order to get my things to work too.
Thanks. I appreciate that feedback. Let me try it. It is letting me choose the Blackmagic. There we go. You were right. Thank you. All right. So Tammy, if you wanted to go over there and kind of stand there, I'm going to show you, we're actually streaming here with this camera. Let me zoom it in. And I'm not obviously trying to make a point here. Can anybody tell me what my point is? Can you actually see Tammy there in the frame? It's probably pretty hard to see. Let me.
Point window. I think she's talking about lighting. Is that the point?
That's my point right there. That's the main point here. So if you've got some sort of way to do lighting, you can just bring your whole program alive just by flipping the switch and getting some light. These two camera lights are actually fairly fancy lights. I think they're a little over $100 each on BH Photo. I'm not quite sure, but they've got brightness settings, and these are set right now at like 40%. But just a little bit of light can make a world of difference. Let me try to zoom that in right over here. It's much harder to see. Oops. Sorry. You know, and just that little bit of light made all the difference in the world. Now, the other thing that the switcher then allows me to do is when she's talking and when she gets to PowerPoint, I can hit that, and I've got the screen backwards right now. Sorry. But it'll let you cut back and forth, and I can go from the first camera to the second camera to the third camera. Actually, you could see that better if I wasn't blocking the screen. You know, you can choose the first camera, the second camera, the third camera, just cutting back and forth. And the great thing here is what I'm showing you right now, if I don't count the cost of the laptop, which was just an old secondhand laptop that we had here. I've got some old secondhand cameras that I've got and the switcher. I'm all in here for less than $400, including all my cables and everything. And I'm doing a multiple camera stream for free with YouTube. And if I was to do it in Facebook, you would get almost the exact same steps. And it is just super, super easy, super inexpensive. And this is the Blackmagic Atem Mini is what it's called. Let me switch the camera over and point to the switcher a little bit better. I should have had a camera operator here. But there's our Atem Mini switcher, $295 on BH Photo. And it does all the magic. And what it does is it takes up to 4 USB in and 4 HDMI cameras, and it converts it all into just a webcam. So my laptop believes it's connected simply to one webcam, and it's all done. Now they have a different version of this called the Pro, and it will actually stream without the need of a laptop at all. It's a great little device, costs quite a bit more. And the reason that I prefer this one for a simple church is I think a lot of people can understand this and the laptop to set up the stream. Setting up the stream in the Pro is a little bit more work in the beginning. However, once you've set it up in the very beginning, there's just one button that basically that they have to press, and they can actually go live directly from this into, but it's about $599, I believe, for that. Any comments or questions before we go on?
Yeah, somebody's saying that they're having issues with Blackmagic at some of the churches.
Oh yeah. Okay. Let me guess. I'm going to turn this around and go sit down in the other chair here.
Mickey, you'll need to unshare your screen again. Yeah, there you go.
Yep. No, it took me a minute to move around behind and get my wires going. Okay, let me guess. If you're having trouble with Blackmagic, it's an Atem, which is their most common switcher. Certain devices don't give you a picture, or if you hook them up in the wrong order, you don't get a picture. Is that right? Who posted that question? Brian?
I posted it. I have some friends that do this at other churches and stuff like this, and they started out using the black magic, and they definitely were not fans of it. They just had problems with it, and they went up to different products, and they liked those products.
Now, I know we've used, in fact, for camp meeting for years, we've used the Blackmagic Atem. And the thing with the Atem and almost all of the Blackmagic products is they do not have what's called a scaler. So if you happen to have one camera that puts out, well, let me back up. With HDMI, there's about 14 different signals that the cameras can put out. Maybe it's even more than that. You can have 720p, 720i. You can have 1080p, 1080i, and in the 1080p, there's about 4 different frequencies that you can run. Atem, the one Blackmagic, they only support the 1 frequency or sometimes 2 frequencies, and that's it. One of the cool things about this Mini is the Blackmagic Mini. It has a scaler built in, and so no matter what signal you put in, it automatically upscales or downscales it so that it's the 1 frequency that they need internally. Normally we would buy, you've probably seen them, these little red boxes about this big. I forget what the brand is, but they do a scaler so that they'll convert from 1 frequency to another. And a lot of times in churches, we end up using those to do the video conversion from 1 frequency to another. This little thing for $295 has all of that built in. And in fact, the laptop that I have there is putting out a totally different frequency than the cameras, and the little device there automatically does all of that conversion. So before this one came out, I was not a fan of Blackmagic. I'm not sure if that's the issue that your friends are running into, or if they were actually using the Mini. We've used these for a while. Before that, my favorite one was the one from Roland. I can actually tip this laptop and show you the one that we have here at the office, and that's a Roland switcher, V1 HD, and it's a great little switcher, and it has scaler and all of that built in, but the roller's $1,000. Roland is $1,000, and this is the first little one that we've found that's at such a value break point, and we have not had any issues with syncing it. Virtually everything that we've plugged into it syncs correctly. I don't know if that's will be our experience, but we have a couple of these now that we're using, and I currently endorse them. I don't believe that you'll run into the problems that you run into with the earlier Blackmagic Atem.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, thanks for pointing that out, though. That is one of the issues that you run into whenever you do video switching. There are so many standards of video switching, of video signal, and most switchers, they require all of the inputs to exactly match, otherwise they can't actually switch. But this little one does scale all of that and handles it just invisibly for you. All right, let's see, let's go back to my PowerPoint. So I want to talk a little bit about some of the technology and some of the issues. Audio is the first one that I'd like to talk about. Where do you want to connect audio in to do this system, to do something like this? And we talked a little bit about this in the first session, just in general terms, but I want to talk specifically now. The audio, you can hook it up different places. You can have your own microphone somewhere in the auditorium. That's probably the most expensive, most troublesome way. You've got to run a cable over, you got to have a mic stand. It'll pick up potentially coughing and other things, like the built-in microphone on your camera, all that kind of stuff. Your best way would be to hook it in from your soundboard, ideally. When you hook it in from your soundboard, you're going to run into something which is inherent with HDMI. And I'm going to digress here for a minute and just talk about HDMI. Almost every camera and every device that you're going to use nowadays is actually going to have a need to have HDMI out. And if you're going to plug it in to use it for streaming, you'll either need something like that switcher, which will convert the signal, or something like this, which will convert your HDMI device into regular USB, because that's what almost every streaming service is going to want. It's just going to bring up a web page, show you your web cameras, and let you stream. The fun thing about HDMI is everybody does it. Almost everybody that manufactures any sort of a camera has HDMI out. So as long as you've got equipment that can take HDMI in, whether it's a little adapter like this or a big switcher like that, you're all set. And HDMI carries the audio signal as well. There's one problem with HDMI, and that is because of the internal processing in the system. Once it takes in audio and video, there is an inherent delay between the live picture and what actually comes out of the HDMI port. Why do I mention that? Well, let's say that you've got your HDMI camera set up and you're streaming from the camera, but then you take your audio wire straight from your soundboard and you bring that over and you plug it straight into your laptop. The audio then will not have any delay on it because it goes straight from your board straight into your laptop, whereas your video, because it came in here live and then it came out of your HDMI port, it is now 200 milliseconds, a fifth of a second behind the audio. And if you've ever watched it, a lot of times when you're watching a stream, you'll see that people's lips and the audio are not in sync. If it doesn't bother you, go ahead, no problem. But if it bothers you, you want to fix that, there's a couple of ways that you can fix it. One way is many of these cameras actually have a microphone in. And so you can take the audio from the soundboard into your camera, even if the camera is way over there, and then it'll come back down the HDMI cable and into your laptop, but it will now be in sync with the video because the HDMI in the camera delayed the audio and it delayed the video about 200 milliseconds or so. And so you're now in sync. The problem with that is if you have two cameras, as soon as you cut away from that one camera and you switch to a PowerPoint, let's say, you lost your audio. So you'll need to deal with that. So I wouldn't recommend taking your audio into the camera first, unless you only have one. If you only have one camera, then you could do that and you'll be fine. But as soon as you add a second camera, now you've got to run the audio out. And really the easiest way to do that is there's a little, they call it debedder. And what it does is you run your camera, your audio into one of your cameras, you run the HDMI to your switch, and just before your switch, you put this little box in. It's about this big. And what it does is it separates the audio out, and then you can put it into the input on your board or on your laptop so that your audio is now delayed, the same as your video, but as you switch the different buttons on your input on your switcher, you're not losing your audio as you're cutting back and forth. I hope I didn't make that too complicated. But the other thing I want to mention with HDMI is in general, you can only go about 50, 60, sometimes 70 feet with an HDMI cable. But there's a real easy way to deal with that. It's called SDI. And SDI runs your signal through a coax. And with that, you can actually run, these little adapters. They're not expensive, $35 each or something, and or as low as that. And you can put one of those at your camera. You can go from the camera, HDMI into it. You can run 300 feet or more of coax cable to your switcher, and then you can switch it back to HDMI there, and it actually works very well. And that's what we use at camp meeting, where we've got cameras that are a long ways away from our switching board. Yes, so I kind of did a long monologue there, so let's pause for a minute. Anybody have any questions or comments or anything? All right, let's go on. One of the other ways that you can mess with your or fix your audio sync problem is with one of these little boxes. They're $100, which is why I didn't recommend it up front. And what you can do is here on the side, I don't know if you can see this, but you can actually dial how much delay to give your audio to try to get it to synchronize up with your video signal. Final words, assign someone to watch your streams. It is more common than you would think to actually start your stream, start your church program, be halfway through church, and finally somebody reaches somebody at the church on the cell phone and say, you know, there's no audio on your feed. You know, I can't see the picture. The picture's rolling. Something's wrong with your image. Maybe your stream that you have posted is still last week's sermon, something like that. Assign somebody, if you can, to say, okay, you're going to be the one, and your job today is to use your cell phone, use your laptop, whatever, at home, I don't care where you are, but watch this church service. And if there's any sort of problems, call somebody here at the church so that we know that there's a problem, we can fix it early in the program. And that would be the other thing that I'd really suggest. But really, if you haven't done streaming in your church, make friends with some other church that has, but don't be afraid of it. I showed you there with YouTube. It's almost exactly the same steps in Facebook. You sign into Facebook. There's a events tab, you click on the events, make a new live event. It automatically picks up your webcam. You're up. It's just a very, very few clicks, very, very easy to do. And the last thing I forgot to mention earlier, if you wanted to do like a panel and then live stream the panel with Zoom, what you would do for that is you would, when you create the event, instead of picking your camera, there's another option right beside that where you can choose to embed your video, and it's going to give you 2 fields, which are kind of like a username and a password. And you'll grab those 2 fields and you go to Zoom, and there's a spot where you've got to put those. It's like a username and password basically that you paste in there, RTM stream, and when you start your Zoom and click your stream, it will take the signal and pass it through to YouTube or to Facebook Live. I can't demonstrate that easily here in Zoom because when I pull it up to show you that screen, because we're in a Zoom, it only shows that screen to me. You guys can't see it. So, but in any case, it's well documented on YouTube. If you just YouTube streaming to Facebook or streaming to YouTube or to Ustream, that's the one that we actually use, how to embed your RMTP field. Okay. Does anybody else want to answer that question? I've got a couple of options, but I wanted to see if anybody else, is anybody doing that right now?
What was the question?
How to stream to multiple streaming services at the same time. Yeah.
Do you mean like multiple social media platforms, or are you talking like your website and YouTube, or maybe all of it?
You know what? Yeah, social media, like maybe Facebook and YouTube and the website.
There's the way that we do it right now is we stream with Ustream. We stream and Ustream sounds like that ice cream song, but we stream with Ustream, and with Ustream, that's its own place and its own streaming service, and it gives us a URL, a web address, and we can copy that address. We can go to our Facebook page and we can stick it in. That's how we currently do it. There is another way that you can do it. There's a service called I think it's called WeStream, W-E Stream. And what it will let you do is you can put in all of your different accounts. Like if you have an account on YouTube, an account on Facebook, and an account on Ustream, whatever, you can put those all in and then link that to your original stream, and it will then live stream the event as if you were just doing it to the one, but it will do it to this one, and it'll do it to that one, and it'll do it to this one as well. It's kind of a third-party app. I'm not sure if that's the question you're asking, but that's one way to easily do it to multiple sites. We didn't like Facebook for a little while because it was very easy to put a stream on Facebook, and when somebody tried to watch it, it wouldn't let them watch because maybe they didn't have a Facebook account. That issue, as far as I know, has been resolved. We haven't run into that one for a while. So Facebook's actually a fairly nice place to stream because your church probably should already have a Facebook presence, and it kind of keeps all of your things in there, any news that you have, other things there with your site. Andrew, our programmer, some of you guys know Andrew LaPierre, what he uses is once he streams, their church has a website on Church Connect. I don't know how many of you use Church Connect. It's the free one that the GC or the NAD lets you make a web page on. And one of the things he was excited about is he's actually been able to upload so far an unlimited amount, a number of videos, movies, services, and have them all there listed on their web page for their church. So if anybody wants to see anything that was at their church, it gives them one place to go and find it easily, rather than going through potentially 40 screens on Facebook, or trying to find them on YouTube and trying to put in your church's name and do a search or something like that. He's actually been able to download all of these services and put them directly on his webpage that he has through Church Connect, Adventist Church Connect. So that was kind of an interesting idea that I didn't realize was an option. Anybody else? How many of you guys are already streaming yourselves, your own churches? Yeah, I thought I saw quite a few of you here that are already doing that. Would you like an opportunity to tell something that didn't work well or something that has worked very well for you? Please, let me open the floor at this point for anyone to talk.
Question on the services, the Ustream and the WeStream, I guess we're currently using vMix. What is the price difference between the Ustream and the Ustream and the WeStream? Okay,
Ustream, all it does is it does the one stream. WeStream, as far as I understood it, it doesn't actually stream. It just takes one stream and simulcasts it to multiple platforms. So they're a different type of service, but I did want to mention Ustream. What we like about Vimeo, I'm sorry, not Ustream, we use Vimeo. Too many different acronyms here. We use Vimeo. The thing that works great with Vimeo is we pay $75 a month, which is a little bit high for a smaller church. But as a result, what do we get for that? We can do unlimited number of streams with no commercials, with no pop-ups, and we can do those to unlimited numbers of people, all included in that one fee. And we can do as much music as we want because it's a pay service. Therefore, they trust that if we get into a licensing issue, that the music people are going to hit us directly. They're not going to try to go to the intermediary. So we're actually able to, when we were at camp meeting, we were able to stream a concert on Sabbath afternoon, things like that. We were able to do that. We weren't worried about Facebook or YouTube cutting us off partway through the stream and yelling at us about copyright type information. So it works very well for us. But it is not an inexpensive option. It's $100. It's $75 a month. Ustream, which is now IBM, is the one that we used to use. Ustream, their basic service for streaming now is about $100 a month, and they will bill you. They will only allow you to have so many viewers per minute or viewers per hour. They break it down, and so based on how many people actually watch your event, they will actually potentially bill you extra in addition to the $100 a month. So the best one that we've found so far that we really like, it works well for the conference at maybe a different scale, is Vimeo. And Vimeo also automatically holds over all the videos that we've done live, and it keeps them in our library. So if someone goes to our Vimeo channel, all of our videos are there listed together. And of course, YouTube does that as well. Daycast, D-A-Cast is a very, very prominent one used by many, many churches. They have options that are not quite as expensive per month, but they kind of nickel and dime you, as I understand it. But you still might be able to do that if you decided that you were wanting to use a pay service. But I would encourage you, try using the free services first and see if you run into any issues. Anybody else?
Yes, I have a quick question. So from what I'm hearing, if we go with the paid service, per se, like Vimeo, that will help with a lot of the hassle we have to go through with the CCLI. Does that mean so right now, how our church is doing it, we do it on Zoom, and then eventually we'll record it and upload it to YouTube unlisted. So nobody will see it unless you have that link.
Okay.
But it's a lot of work for us to process that video and then upload it. But from what I'm hearing, we could probably do the same thing using Vimeo, where it's uploaded automatically, and then they'll be nicely archived, and we could just, members could go and find it that way.
Yeah, so anything that you live stream on Vimeo will stay in your account, and you have to choose whether you're going to make it a public event, a private event, after you've actually done it, who can see the event. But that's just a checkbox. You can delete it. You can do all that kind of stuff. Yes. So it is handy for that. But I do believe that YouTube will do the same thing. If you live stream on YouTube, and if somebody goes to your YouTube channel, it's still there later. I don't believe you have to do anything. I think it's already still there.
Yeah, so I guess the difference there would be YouTube is a lot stricter in terms of copyright content, right? Because I think earlier you were saying, if you're going to stream and you're going to be playing music, or somebody's going to be singing, just to not get taken down, it's best to not stream that section of it. So
and that's why we use Vimeo. Or that's probably
Yeah.
the number one reason that we use Vimeo, is so that we make sure that we have the correct CCLI license for what we're doing, and then we stream, and they say, you guys are a paying customer, we trust you, you do whatever you're going to do. And the other thing with Vimeo is, at this point at least, and we don't know in the future, but we don't anticipate having problems where they're saying, you guys mentioned homosexuality, and you just can't do that on Facebook, you're out, or whatever. They don't have that level of social filtering. At least we haven't experienced it yet. There are some other channels where, if a pastor's talking about a subject like that, which is, clearly biblical, but there's, so many groups that are now trying to be the police and try to catch somebody saying the wrong thing, and cancel culture and all that kind of stuff. We, at least so far, we believe we haven't run into that. We won't run into that with Vimeo, at least not as easily as you will with Facebook or with YouTube.
Thank you.
Does anybody have some real success or some horror story that they want to tell us with your own stream that might help someone else?
I was going to offer up, just to let everybody know, that at least when we first subscribed to before we subscribed to vMix, they offered a free, I think it was either month or 2 months trial. If anybody, was interested in that. I don't know if they still do or not, but.
Yeah, that would probably be smart, because you don't want to start using it and then run into some sort of an issue. Oh, we didn't realize that one thing is kind of getting us. Yeah.
For us, we've been doing Zoom over a year now, since last March, and I have a district, and some of the pastors may have districts. So that was the problem for me as the pastor, how to be at each location, what we were doing. At first, since we're on Zoom and we were already on YouTube, we started Zoom last March, but we already had a YouTube. So when we weren't meeting in the building, it worked fine. Our problem was trying to synchronize the Zoom with the YouTube the way we were doing it, and finally worked that out over several months. I know you can stream straight to YouTube and Facebook directly from Zoom.
Right.
And when I'm by myself, I can do that to keep the YouTube going. I want to keep the YouTube going every week because we have a small list of regular customers. If you say that once you lose a Sabbath that they're expecting, you can lose your customers, if you want to call them that, your clientele. But at the Thomaston church, I'm at the Griffin and Thomaston district, it was much smaller. I didn't have the crew. I have a nice crew at Griffin, 2 ladies that operate the cameras there. One of them's on with us right now. And so when we started meeting live together back in September, the problem was, well, how do I do this now? I started by meeting at different times for each church and streaming them separately. But as of February, they didn't want to do that anymore in the afternoon. So now we're meeting at the same time. Well, what we do now is I'm preaching at each church, just started it. When I'm at Griffin, we have a TV at the Thomaston church that's able to catch that stream. And because on YouTube, you can pause the stream. So the elder at the Thomaston church can do the offering and the prayer, and the stream is paused. And then that's after the song service. They do the song service together. Then afterwards, when the sermon starts, he can just press play and fast forward and catch up to the stream and start the sermon on time, or special music, or whatever may be there. So that actually worked well, to be able to pause the live stream at the second church that wasn't streaming, but was receiving the stream. And so when I'm at the Thomaston church, the problem was, how do I preach at Thomaston and have it go to Griffin, who's running the YouTube stream? And we solved that with Zoom. So I just was on the same Zoom stream, and she just spliced that into the YouTube the way she figured it out to do that. So when I'm at Thomaston, it still runs. We've done it about 3 or 4 weeks now. It runs pretty seamlessly. It's just coming from, I'm streaming to, I'm not streaming, I'm on Zoom, and they spotlight me, right, so the sermon picks up. That was one question maybe I had, Mickey, you might be able to answer, because I'd kind of forgotten. I started this process with them, and they've advanced in training beyond me. But how would a person spotlight someone on Zoom to just have that screen? It seems like right now you're spotlighted, because I notice when someone else talks, your screen stays up. So how would that work?
There's an option in at least for the host. I'm not sure, but when you hover over your window, if you click the 3 dots up in the top right, there's actually 2 options there. One would be to spotlight, or the other would be to pin, or you can even hide yourself. But I had spotlighted, and now I've removed the spotlight. But I believe that only the host or co-host can do that. I'm not sure. Do you see that option right there, spotlight for everyone?
It's only the host or co-host. That's correct.
Yeah. So as long as you're a host or co-host, you should be able to click on one particular window. I didn't realize I was still spotlighted. Sorry.
Mickey,
No, that's okay. That's okay.
I was able to pin you so that you just showed on the screen too.
Okay. So without being a host, you were able to pin. So what the pin does is the pin only works on your end. So it didn't affect anybody else. If I was to spotlight, then everybody basically got stuck with it. I can override your settings, sort of a thing. Now, it's interesting what you're doing there with Zoom and 2 churches. I wanted to mention one of the things that we ran into. We went and visited a church, very nice little friendly church, a couple Sabbaths ago, and their pastor was at home. I think he'd been exposed. And so he was at home, and he was doing the Sabbath school as well as the church service from home. And they had Zoom set up. They had a laptop in the back that was joined to Zoom. They had, a projector in the front that was showing what was on there. And they'd had the laptop hooked into the soundboard, but they also wanted to have the Sabbath school discussion. And so they placed a couple of microphones in the middle of the auditorium to pick up people so that they could, be part of the Sabbath school discussion. And let me just say that's not a good idea. Let me just put it that that's not a good idea. The problem is with every device, there's just a little bit of delay. And so the audio that was coming from the pastor's home was coming in through Zoom. It was now going into the soundboard up into the room. And when it went into the room, there were microphones in the room. Now, Zoom has this great little anti-ring or anti-feedback between its built-in speakers and your built-in microphone. But there's enough delay in once you run it through a soundboard and up into a room where that isn't working effectively. And so we had constantly this little echo, almost like just trying to do feedback, kind of ooh, 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 on the end of almost everybody when they talked, when the pastor was speaking. It was very, very bad. And all we had to do to get rid of it was mute the mics, those that were in the audience. We just mute the mics. So there's no mics in the room that were on, and that would go away. But then that meant that somebody had to be sitting there at the board. Whenever someone tried to talk, they would unmute the mic, and the pastor wasn't talking, so you didn't hear that echo. And as soon as he was done, you had to mute the mic again. And it was a small church, and very friendly. They permitted me to go to sit in the soundboard at the soundboard. Nobody else was there that was normal operator, and so they were just sitting there in the audience, and they were like, "Oh, the sound is bad. Can you do something?" So I just went over and I would just mute the mics whenever they didn't need it. But that goes back to the earlier discussion we talked about. You need an operator that's helping you, and also listening. And if it's not clear, in that particular case, the pastor was just using the microphone in his laptop, and there must have been something wrong with it, or maybe he had his notes on top of the microphone, but the sound from the microphone was particularly bad. If that happens, you can buy like a $15 mic that you can plug into your laptop that sounds, pretty amazing. So it's real helpful if you have people that are listening to what you're doing and giving you feedback so that you can deal with issues.
Yeah.
But no, thank you very much for that, Dean. Anybody else?
Yeah, if there's any pastors out there now, one of the problems I have is when the ladies go on vacation. It's only happened once or twice. But the way I solve that problem is to keep the YouTube going, I just stream directly to YouTube from Zoom. And of course, it puts Zoom in the lower right-hand corner of the YouTube screen, but at least kept that going, and it just didn't run anything else. And the other way I solved the problem is I purchased a Mevo Start. I actually have a couple of them now, and that's what I'm using for webcam right now. It's in beta mode, but it runs really well even as a webcam. And with the Mevo Start, I can operate everything from my cell phone with it pointing at me, so I can record myself, stream myself, and I don't need a camera operator using that. That's about a $400 camera, but it live streams automatically, and it will live stream to multiple platforms. And for a couple $100 a year, I think it's 175, you can do lower thirds and over the shoulders with a what's called a producer Vimeo subscription. I know the pro subscription is $900. Tammy put that up on the stream, but with the Mevo, you can get a producer subscription to do some simple lower thirds. I create a keynote or a PowerPoint, if you will, and you save that as a PDF, and you can upload it to the Mevo camera, and that makes nice over the shoulder streams, and it can also be put into a full screen just using your cell phone or the iPad. So if someone's really in a bind and they're needing to do a lot by themselves, maybe pastors at smaller districts, I would suggest maybe looking into the Mevo Start and that producer plan, and that might help them out with some things. But that's what I use as my backup, and that's what I use when I'm doing prayer meetings and things like that as well.
Twice we've, the last 2 years when we've signed up for Vimeo, when we pay the whole year in advance, they have given us a free Mevo. And so we've actually got 2 of them. They're really a great tool. They're very, very powerful. They can do all kinds of stuff. One of the cool things for those that haven't heard of a Mevo is it can, sorry, my screen's backwards. It can you can set it like this to take the entire stage, for instance, on the width, but then it's high resolution. So then it can also have like a second camera, which is it's actually the first camera, but it has a second shot, which is maybe just the speaker's head or just the speaker's face. And it, you know, it can cut back and forth from these, even with just one camera. I mean, it can do a lot of neat stuff. But it's not
here. I'm talking, you see me, but watch now. I'll cut to widescreen.
Yeah.
And you see, there's my wife, and I'll just cut to her. She doesn't like being on camera, but that's one camera doing that. And I'm just using my cell phone. I'm just using my cell phone right here to actually, you know, move the things around like so. Well, you don't want to see that shot, so I better go back. Anyway, yeah, it's in beta mode as a webcam, but I'm using it as a wireless webcam actually, and it's been working really well, even with lower thirds and the over the corner messages that I need for my sermon. In fact, I did it last week from home. I wasn't able to go to the church, and so I actually preached from home, and I used that, and it worked out well.
And it's got its own mic and everything too. It's a very nice. It's a very nice option. It's probably not for the first time user. It's a little bit, you know, there's a lot of little things that you have to understand to set up. But it is one of the best options if you're looking for, if you got a little bit of money and you want to
package. Yeah,
it's a complete package that does tons of stuff. It almost can provide you an entire studio in just one device.
Yeah, and I put a link to Mevo in the chat if anybody wants to go check it out. Somebody also asked, what is the cost for the door prize camera? And speaking of door prizes, aren't we giving out another one?
We're giving out another door prize. We better hurry up and do that because it is 11:59. They're going to cut us off in less than a minute. Actually, that's not quite true. But, oh, that's the wrong one. This one is 4K.
Okay, are you ready?
Here it is.
Show them what they're getting.
This is a 4K. It's the same brand as the other one. And this one, somebody asked about cost. The first one, how tacky. The first one was about a $34 camera. This is a $90 camera. And it also comes with the waterproof housing and you know, all the other gadgetry. This one has a HDMI out. So you could actually mount this in the back of your church, plug it into HDMI, plug it in and live stream your church with it. It is a beautiful little camera. Cross tour, and it is a motion, you know, it's made for outdoor motion. You can use it, hook it on your motorcycle or something, or on your helmet if you're skiing or something. I mean, it is a fun little camera. It's great. It's about $90.
I got a name. Juan, is it Tuya?
Tuya, yes, ma'am.
Well, guess what? You won. I drew your name.
Go one, go one, go team.
Thank you. Thank you.
That's our church.
What happened to the sound?
He's muted. So just know that I will be contacting you guys that won the prizes. I'll contact you on your email and just ask for your address so we can mail them to you. So thank you. And Mickey's back now.
My whole soliloquy is gone. Oh, well. No, I was just thanking everyone for the role that you play in ministry in your churches, whether your pastor is, you know, some of you are, and whether you're volunteers that are working there. And thank you very much. Try it. Thanks a lot, everyone, for joining us.
And we'll also be sending you a survey. If this was helpful to you, we want to know if